Hello and welcome to the Reaching Home Community Homelessness Report 2023-24 CHR Template Walkthrough webcast for the Homelessness Policy Directorate's e-course on the Community Homelessness Report, which we refer to as the CHR. This webcast provides training for our community entities about the CHR for the 2023-24 reporting cycle. It gives an overall introduction to the CHR. This training webcast will cover the following topics. Number 1, an overview of each section of the 2023-24 CHR template. And number 2, rules and functions of the CHR template. When you open the CHR template in Excel, you see the cover page where you will need to type in your community's name. All the tabs have labels on them that align with the CHR reference guide. For the 2023-24 reporting cycle, there are 4 sections in the CHR. Section 1, Community Context. Section 2, Coordinated Access and HMIS Self-Assessment. Section 3, Outcomes-Based Approach Self-Assessment. And Section 4, Community-Level Outcomes and Targets. Section 4 is broken down into 3 tabs, A, B, and C. Before we walk through the 4 sections, there is one last thing I want to cover. Although the CHR has many questions divided into 4 sections, you may not need to answer each question. You will skip all of the questions that have been grayed or shaded out because based on the information you have provided in previous questions in your CHR, these are not applicable to your community at this time. You can see what this looks like on the video playing right now on the slide. The question asked on the slide is about HIFIS. We ask if the community is using HIFIS as the HMIS. If yes is selected, no more questions are asked. They all get grayed out and you can move on. After you watch this webcast, if you haven't done so already, I encourage you to enter information into the Excel template and test this out for yourself. Here is what you can try. Select different answers for the questions that have drop-downs, like yes, no, under development, or not yet. Watch for any cells that automatically get shaded out in that section or the next section based on what you selected. Let's start at the beginning with section 1. The first section is about setting context. We invite you to share more about the efforts your community is putting forward to address homelessness and increase access to housing. We ask about the issues that your community has faced over the last year. And we ask you to reflect on the impact of changes in your community's approach to addressing homelessness. Section 1 also includes several questions about the level of collaboration that's taking place between Indigenous and non-Indigenous partners. If there has been little or no collaboration between Indigenous and non-Indigenous partners to date in your community, we will ask you to describe how this will be addressed in the coming year. We may follow up with you on your response, perhaps during your next mid-year dialogue with your Infrastructure Canada representative. And Section 1 is where you let us know your plans for making the CHR summary available to the public. Most of the responses to the questions in Section 1 are comment boxes with some yes or no options. And here's another tip. You may want to fill in Section 1 after you've completed the other sections of the CHR so that you can refer to this additional information in your answers. For more information about Section 1, see pages 13 to 18 of the CHR reference guide. Now let's take a closer look at Section 2. Section 2 is where the minimum requirements on coordinated access and HMIS for the 2019 to 2024 Reaching Home funding cycle were translated into an actionable checklist. These questions include the same information in the Reaching Home directives, just worded a bit differently to allow for greater alignment with the Reaching Home Coordinated Access Guide released in 2019 and the current language used in the sector. Section 2 now also includes questions on additional information about your system. For most questions, you will simply select an answer from a drop-down menu unless otherwise indicated. As you complete Section 2, a summary of your progress with the minimum requirements is automatically generated in two tables. The last question in this section is a comment box where we ask you to highlight any efforts and/or issues related to your community's work to implement coordinated access and your HMIS, as well as some other prompts for consideration. And here's a tip. If you have completed the CAEH Coordinated Access Scorecard, please have it on hand when you complete Section 2 of the CHR. You will see that the questions are the same for the Reaching Home level. If your scorecard is current, the answers you gave for your scorecard as of March 31, 2024 for the Reaching Home level must be the same as your CHR responses for the 2023-24 reporting period. This is something that Infrastructure Canada will check as part of their review. If the answers are different, we will follow up with you to understand why so that we can ensure that the information about your community is aligned between Reaching Home and CAEH. For more information about Section 2, see pages 19 to 34 of the CHR Reference Guide. Sections 3 and 4 are about meeting the minimum requirement to transition to an outcomes-based approach under the 2019 to 2024 Reaching Home funding cycle. Let's start with Section 3. Questions in Section 3 of the CHR are organized into two parts. In Part A, you will self-assess your progress with the minimum requirement to transition to an outcomes-based approach in 4 steps. Step 1. Maintain person-specific data for homelessness. Step 2. Maintain real-time data. Step 3. Maintain comprehensive data. And Step 4. Track outcomes and progress against targets. In Part B, you will be asked to provide additional information about your person-specific data. Most questions in Section 3 are answered with drop-downs, but there are also some comment boxes. As you complete Section 3, a summary of your progress with the minimum requirements is automatically generated in two tables. The last question in this section is a comment box where we ask you to highlight any efforts and/or issues related to your community's work to transition to an outcomes-based approach, as well as some other prompts for consideration. For more information, you can refer to pages 35 to 49 of the CHR Reference Guide. Now let's move on to Section 4. As previously mentioned, Section 4 is broken down into 3 tabs, A, B, and C. Section 4 is about using person-specific data to report on outcomes and set homelessness reduction targets for the 5 core outcomes of Reaching Home. It is also where communities track their progress against these targets over time. This reporting is done under tab 4A. Having person-specific data that is real-time and comprehensive is a prerequisite for this section. Once communities have enough data and the capacity to generate data for one or more outcomes, they must set reduction targets. As a reminder, communities must have person-specific data that is real-time and comprehensive by January 1st, 2024 at the latest, so they have enough data to generate accurate monthly baselines and set monthly reduction targets for the 5 core outcomes of Reaching Home by March 31st, 2024. For the 2023-24 CHR reporting cycle, there are also 2 optional reporting opportunities for communities. First, the optional Community Level Outcome tab, which is tab 4B within the CHR template, allows communities to report on community-level outcomes beyond the 5 core outcomes mandated under Reaching Home. Second, the month-over-month Community-Level Outcome tab, which is tab 4C within the CHR template and is new for this year, allows communities to report data for every month of the entire 2023-24 fiscal year, meaning from April 2023 to March 2024 for one or more of the 5 core outcomes mandated under Reaching Home. Reporting data for tabs 4B and 4C is entirely optional. If a community does not wish to report data for these tabs, they should answer no to questions 3.27 and/or 3.28, and the respective tabs will be shaded out accordingly. In this section, response options are mostly data entry with some drop-down menus and open comment boxes. For more information, you can refer to pages 50 to 59 of the CHR reference guide. That concludes this session. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this webcast.